Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of PEPTalk, Productive Environment Podcast. I am your host, Andrea Anderson. I am not the founder. I almost said founder of Productive Environment. All right, Barbara, that's you. CEO of Productive Environment Institute. And this is Barbara Hemphill, founder of Productive Environment Institute. I think I was, let's see, how old was I? I was 9 when you founded Productive Environment Institute.
Oh gosh.
Yes. So welcome everyone to our Pep Talk podcast today. Hopefully you saw, let me just put our image back up. So how many of you jumped on? Because like at the time of this recording, it is the beginning of March. And we want to let you know that it is not too late to get organized for taxes. And depending on when you listen to this, no matter, I don't even care if it's April 16th that you listen to this, it is not too late to get organized for taxes for next year. Right, Barbara?
Absolutely.
So, all right. So I am going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Barbara. So what do you mean by that? It is not too late to get organized for taxes.
Well, there is a Chinese character for crises, and I am told that it's danger plus opportunity. And as I was thinking about ways to think about to illustrate what it is about taxes, nobody likes taxes. In fact, my accountant, I don't even like to call my accountant. It's like, because usually when I'm calling my accountant, it means there's something wrong. And her receptionist is just, oh my gosh, she is so awesome. And I dropped off my taxes yesterday and I went in and I said to her, Annette, I just want you to know that I don't ever like calling my accountant's office, but I like calling you because you are always so encouraging, so supportive, so kind. I mean, it's just amazing to me. And so that's kind of a little side thing about, just how important it is to surround yourself with people that will support you. So taxes is a danger or an opportunity. It's a danger because as long as we're breathing, we're going to have to do taxes. Frankly, I wish our country would go to flat taxes. It would make things a whole lot easier. But in the meantime, we have to do this. And if we don't, we end up paying a lot more because we're not organized. We're paying late fees. We're stressed. I mean, the price we pay for stress out is horrendous. So the reason I chose the character crises is it's also an opportunity. So now is an opportunity to not only do your taxes for this year if you haven't done them, but even more importantly is to figure out what you can do so that they're not such a stress next year. And now is the time to do that, because if you don't think about it now, at PEI, we talk all the time about systems. We use the acronym SYSTEM: saving you space, time, energy, and money. And everybody needs a system for taxes. So let me give you an example of some little things that can make a huge difference. Several years ago, I had a client who was an entrepreneur, and it was before tax time. And he literally had like grocery bags full of receipts. And a lot of the receipts were the receipts that came from the cash register or from the gas pump or things like that. And so we stopped to think about, okay, came to tax time, he had to go through all those. And so I picked out the one from the gas pump, for example, and I said, when do you use this? And as we talked through it, the answer was never. The printed receipt that comes from the gas pump is of no value. And so it's adding clutter and it's adding work. That's such one small example. But within doing taxes, there's dozens of those little examples that we really need to evaluate. So the first thing is about changing your attitude, saying, I love the verse of the Bible that says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Well, he even helps you do your taxes, because if you will say, okay, I know I can do this. I have to. I don't have a choice, right? I have to do it. But I don't have to do it in a stressed out way. I can do it in a way that's not fun necessarily, but you can make it as pleasant as possible. So mindset is really, really important.
Barbara,
With everything, but with toxic.
Before you move on from that one, I have two things to add. One, before I met you, I worked for a company, and it was family. I did intensive in-home family counseling, and so it was all about family systems. And that phrase about the Chinese character, for crisis, we talked about that all the time.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Yeah, like the family's in crisis, but this is an opportunity to heal. This is an opportunity to work together and create systems and change things. So that was very, very prevalent in my early days before I even came to PEI. The second thing, my mom is backstage here with us, so I can see her. She's not on screen, but she does use the little thing from the gas pump, but only very briefly. And Mom, I have a question for you, and I know you can't answer it on here, but I want to know, do you do anything with it after? Do you throw it away? Because I just came back from a trip with her, and as long as I can remember ever riding in a car with my mother, she always would say, when she would stop for gas, she'd say, "Can you get out the little book in the glove?" She has this book in the glove box. And to this day, she's 82 years old now and years young. And to this day, we just got back from a trip to Florida. "Can you get out the little book in the glove box?" And she would get the receipt, and she would jot things down in the book, and she would reset her little odometer thing, and she's tracking all this stuff. My question for you, Mom, and you can send it in Telegram, is what do you do with the receipt after that? Because I'm not sure I paid attention to that. But I think she's done with it at that point. She's tracked it. I don't know anybody else that tracks it like that, but she does. Anyway, I just want to give her a shout out because her consistency for things like that is just mind blowing.
Well, and that's an example of a system. And it's also, we never tell a client, this is what you should do. So I'm not saying by that, you should throw away your gas seats. It was just in this case, this client never did anything with them, so they weren't valuable.
Exactly.
So that takes us to number 2 for your taxes, is set an appointment with yourself. And probably it would be very helpful to get an accountability partner. And in fact, I just did that yesterday. I had mine almost done. I've been waiting for some documents, and they'd finally come in, and I was going to do it on Saturday. And then I didn't. Saturday came and went, and I didn't. And I don't work on Sunday, so I did. It's like, okay, I want to do it Monday. And I have a prayer group that meets at Monday morning at 8, and she was doing hers too. So we said, okay, we'll hold each other accountable. So we texted each other that we were working on them and that we both got them done. So having the accountability, and then also finding out what your accountant wants and how they want it. Different accountants do it very differently. We had one before that sent out a book, and we filled out the book. And this year we have a new accountant because our accountant retired, and he was a very paper person. The person he sold the company to is totally digital. And one of the things she told us is that I said to her, "Do I have to scan everything for you?" She said, "No. We have a very fast scanner. You can bring it all in paper." And she said, "We'll scan it, but what we're going to do differently is we're going to give you a month. And if you don't come back and pick up your paper records, we're going to throw them away. We're not going to send them back to you." Well, I have all of my paper records in the past, but my daughter, who's going to manage stuff when I'm gone, doesn't want it that way. So it's like, okay, that's the way it's changed. So you're constantly looking at what your accountant needs, what you need, and what any other people in the family might need.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to report back. Mom messaged me, and she said that she keeps the receipt from the gas pump until she enters it into her checkbook, and then it's gone. So if you're if we're just keeping it, and I do it too, Barbara, I would keep it for a long time and just not really, I'm like, I think I should keep this. So if you don't have a plan, or you're not keeping it for any purpose, then, either figure out a purpose or just go ahead and get rid of it. And she has a purpose, a plan, she documents it, and then she gets rid of it. So thank you, Mom.
And that's where we can use that art of wastemaster question. What's the worst thing that would happen if I didn't have this?
Yeah.
And if I threw this away, what would happen? And then you say, is that a price I'm willing to pay? And it doesn't have a right or wrong answer. Perfect. Number 3 is to gather the records that you have. And in this day and age, probably most people have both in paper and electronic, which actually complicates things. It did for me, because sometimes I had stuff in paper and I had stuff in digital. So it meant I had to double check both of those. It took a little bit longer, but gathering them together. And here is where you can begin to do something that will be helpful next year, which is make a note of where all those records are, where you had to go this time to get them. And then ask yourself, is that the best way to do it? Or am I keeping things in a way that I could do it better? So for example, I keep paper records, like we get donations and you get a paper thing back that says you donated it. I keep those, but you often get an electronic one too. So sometimes there's duplications. So again, there's not a right or wrong, but it's progress starts with the truth. So what you're doing as you're gathering these records is saying, okay, what is the truth about where this information is? Is this the best place for it to be? And is there some way that I can simplify it? Then we go to step 4, which is the categorization of it. That may depend on how your accountant wants it. In my case, my accountant was very generous in saying, just give me the records. But just for my own purposes, what I did was I categorized it into income. So I did this both in electronic and in my paper records at the same time. Then I could compare what I had in paper and what I had in records so that I hadn't forgotten anything. So categorization, there's lots of ways that you can do it, but it's a way to organize anything. And if you think about it, you can apply it if you're organizing your pantry. The way you organize your pantry is by saying, okay, let's put all the vegetables together and let's put all the fruits together. It's the same thing. It's exactly the same process. And it is the time-consuming process to categorize and then eliminate any kind of duplicates. You also, if you work, I have in my life 2 bookkeepers. So there's a bookkeeper that helps me with my business records. And then there's a bookkeeper that helps our family with family records, with real estate records and things like that. So gathering information means gathering it from them as well. And they send it all to me electronically. So those are all the things that need to happen. So the next step you want to do to make next year easier is just have a list of where are all the places I need to go to get the records, and then what categories, so that next year when you go to do it, you'll have all the categories. You already know what they were. You won't have to rethink it. Part of it is we reinvent the wheel all the time, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel because you've already done it. And then that brings us to step 5, which is for next year. And it's like, what can I do? And we use all the time what we call our 5-step productive environment process. And it certainly works with taxes. So think about, and if you think about it as you're doing them now, it'll be easy. If you forget about it and then like, January 2025. Oh my gosh, what did I do? I don't remember what I did. So number 1 is state your vision. So if taxes were as easy as possible for you to do, how would you know that? What date would they be done by? So for example, this year, my vision was that I would have them all done by January 31st. Well, I had my part done, but there were a lot of records that came in from other entities that hadn't been in yet. And yesterday I took the taxes to the accountant, and lo and behold, I got the mail, and there was another document that some agency sent me that was the tax records because they were late getting it out. So you may not be able to get it all, pick a date, but just pick a date to at least have your part done. And that I did have my part done by January 31st, which was a first. I've never had it done that early. That was a goal I set, and I made it this year. Also that my vision is that I wouldn't agonize it over it so much in terms of making an appointment and then doing it, not procrastinating so much about it, because then I'm just wasting time. I'm not getting anything done. And making sure if you have questions, that's another thing. If you have questions that you want to ask your accountant, like maybe something happens during the year and you want to know, is that tax deductible? Well, you want to have a way to quantify that, to either ask them as you go or make a list of questions so that when you submit the records, they're there. So that states your vision. What would success look like if you did your taxes in as smooth as way as possible. Number two is what are your obstacles? Identify your obstacles. And of course, it's number one is motivation. And nothing helps more with motivation than the carrot approach. It's like, okay, if I do this, I'll do this, so literally set some time. Also, it helps to have a place to do it, a way you do it. What tools do you use? Where do you sit? What software are you using? What file folders do you use? What containers do you use? And once you have that, you have it every year. You don't have to rethink it. You've got a system in place for that. Number three, commit your resources. Well, I mentioned some of those resources. It's what software do you have? What containers? Physically, where are you going to do it? I have ADHD, so I'm a big person of putting on music. There's music that's specifically designed for concentration purposes. So when I sat down to do taxes, I immediately went to Amazon Music and typed in concentration and put on some music to help me. Anything that you can do to make it more pleasant. And then step number 4 is design and execute your plan. So once you've done your taxes this year, well, you can finish it for this year. And always the question we're always asking ourselves is, what is the next action? Because part of the reason we get overwhelmed is, I got to do that, but I got to do that. I need to do that. And you just don't. Okay, there's no point in thinking about all those things. All you can think about is what is the next action. So right now, if you haven't done your taxes, you want to ask, what is the next action? So the first one would be, do you know what your accountant needs? If you're doing it yourself, then do you know what you need? Do you have everything you need? And then once you do, then, okay, what's the next action you need to take? And what's the next action? And of course, in the case of taxes, unless you're going to file an extension, you have a deadline. So then you have to say, how am I going to put that in? And with taxes in America, if you owe taxes and you don't pay estimated and you file late, it's going to cost you money. So procrastination could cost you money. So you want to have your plan for what you're going to do this year. And then I think an investment in yourself and your peace of mind is what are you going to do differently next year? Because we can always learn. Everything we do, we can improve our systems. And the best time to improve it is when you're in the middle of kind of a mess and you can figure out, oh, what do I wish I had done? I wish I had done this. Well, make a note of it and then say, what am I going to do differently the next time? And then step 5 is the one where sustain your success, which simply means when you're doing your taxes for next year, what did you learn? Because it probably won't be a perfect plan the first time. There'll probably be something you forgot. Or one of the things that happens all the time is things change. So in my case, I changed where my office was located in my house. So that meant the square feet changed. And that's the thing that the accountant needs to know, what percentage of your house is dedicated to a home office. So that was something that had to change. So you always want to think about what are the things that you want to change. So those are the 5 steps. Number 1, recognize that this is an opportunity and it's all about mindset. Number 2, set an appointment with yourself with an accountability partner. Number 3, gather the records that you have wherever they are, paper and electronic and digital electronic. 4, categorize. And number 5, then do your plan for what you're going to do next year. So even if you do a few of those things, it's going to make the process easier so that you have a system saving you space, time, energy, and money.
One last thing I'd like to say, I want to go back to number 3 because Barbara said, what's the next action? This could be a very simple next action. Well, simple to start that you could do is to just get a folder and label it receipts 2023 or we're in 2024, so 2023 receipts, and just collect all your physical documents or your physical receipts, things you've kept. Just gather them up if they're around your house or your office. Gather them up, put them in a folder in one place. Do the same thing electronically. Create a folder on your computer or in your email. taxes, receipts, whatever you want to name it, and gather up all your electronic things. That is a really, really good place to start.
And you mentioned doing it for this year, but also for next year, because you're already
That's
so you're
right.
going to have it for the ones you've got this year and the ones that you've got next year. It's a very simple thing, but it makes a huge difference just to have everything in one place. If you're scrounging around this year, finding them in dresser drawers and briefcases and handbags and closets and files, that's going to be a problem. And you can stop that problem immediately so that you don't have it.
That's right. We had the same conversation last week on our office transformation boot camp. We have a retired accountant in there. We have at least one money coach in there. And so and some of the questions from the other members had come up of like, what do I do? Where do I start? And that's just a simple place to start, is start collecting. So like Barbara said, for gathering up things for this year, but at the same time, go ahead and create 2024 folders as well. Physically.
And one thing about categorization that I should mention is that it's better to categorize in a larger category first, because a lot of times people get stuck because they get really minute things and then it gets very complicated. So like I mentioned, that my folder, the physical folders and the electronic folders that go to my accountant are just, I have one that says, I'm an LLC, so there's information for my company that's within it. There's income, so what's all the income? There's expenses, there's taxes paid, and then there's questions for the accountant. Those are my categories, and everything fits in one of those things, and it works very, very simply and easily.
Perfect. So our last thing to share is what the definition of a productive environment is, and this is part of creating a productive environment. It's an intentional setting where everyone can accomplish their work and enjoy their lives, not stress.
And enable others to do the same. You know, that's what I love about it. That's something we've talked about lately, is because when we're stressed out, we stress out everybody else as well. And so it really is something. And I've noticed recently, I'm an avid reader. And I've noticed recently there have been so many books and articles coming out now about overwork, about people working too hard and what it's causing in health and whatever. And it's like, well, that's our tagline, is accomplish your work and enjoy your lives. That's what we've been about now for so many years. But it feels like the culture is beginning to catch up with that idea. We are a culture that working hard. I mean, I grew up on a farm where working hard was it was a good thing. It was what you were supposed to do. You were supposed to work hard. But so often with things, the pendulum swings too far. And I remember my brother bought a boat. He had two sons and he bought a boat. And he said, I bought this boat because I want to go on vacations with my son, because I never got to go on vacations with my father. And I think that's an example of how now people are beginning to think that work isn't everything. You have to accomplish your work and enjoy your life.
That's right. So one next action for you guys is to find out how productive your environment is. So go to productiveenvironmentscore.com and you'll get a score. You're going to score anywhere between 15 and 150. So let's see where you score on your productive environment scorecard. So go ahead and go to that website, fill that out, and you'll get a score. And then we'll send you some things that will help you. If your score is lower than you'd like, we'll help you increase the score. If your score is 150, then talk to us about becoming a productive environment specialist so you can help other people to get that score. So that is all for us today. Thank you all for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this edition of our Pep Talk podcast, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.
Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.